This is a demonstration video on the parts I used in my electronic longboard project. To start with, we are using a HTD belt between the motor wheel pulley and then the wheel pulley mounted onto the gear, onto the wheel here. There's a 16:40 gear ratio between them. Then perhaps the most interesting part of this project is the motor mount plates that I created from aluminium. How I started with these plates is I 3D modeled a part that would fit onto my trucks, and then I made a few iterations of that. When I was happy with how the 3D printed PLA plastic parts fit on it, I used a technique called lost PLA casting to create equivalent parts out of aluminium. So here are the aluminium plates. There are 4 threaded holes in here, and then a clamping plate that goes to the other side of the truck. Then if we check out quickly the motor, there's a groove made into the axle of the motor here that takes in a aluminium plate of 3 millimeters thickness, and that is used to fix the wheel pulley onto the axle. And to prevent the wheel pulley from binding into the motor mount plate, I'm using a aluminium tube here between the motor bearing and where the pulley sits, to keep it nicely spaced from the motor. Now that we have the motor fit onto the plate, we can fit the plate onto the truck. Now that we have it approximately here, we can start to fit the wheel and the belt onto it. We need to have 2 washers here. This thin one is the normal one that you would always use there, and then one thicker one to make enough space between the 2 motors over here, because otherwise they would be too close to each other, the wheels, and then that pushes the motors too near to each other. To tension the belt, I'm just simply going to pull the belt tight, and at the same time then we finish up by adding a pin that locks down the belt pulley to the motor axle and the nut. Now we're ready to attach this truck with the motors to the board. To drive the motors, I'm using 2 electronic motor controllers. For the batteries, I'm using 4 4-cell LiPo batteries, 2 in series, 2 in parallel. And to signal the motor controllers for this test run, I'm using a simple servo tester. So the motor controllers have of course the acceleration and then some braking. And now the brake is engaged, so it makes it really hard to spin the wheels. And then of course there's also reverse. Yeah, that's pretty much it.